Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jackson's Math Notebook. This is the second video in a series of videos related to two-step equations, in which we have a variable in the equation, and variables are letters that just simply hide numbers, and we want to get variables on one side of the equation while getting numbers on the other side of the equation. And here's a process in doing that. There are two steps. That's why it is called a two-step equation. And here are our examples. 15 plus 8x is equal to 31. 25 minus p is equal to 10. Negative 12a plus 4 is equal to 100. And let us begin with 15 plus 8x is equal to 31, in which we are going to subtract a 15 from both sides so we can get the variables on one side of the equation while getting numbers on the other side. And so in order to do that, we are going to subtract 15 from both sides. And why do we subtract 15 from both sides? Because this is a hidden positive. Remember, a positive doesn't have to make itself known. It could just be the invisible positive up here. And this is why we have to subtract 15 from both sides. And so in this case, we have a 15 take away 15, which will only leave us with 8x on this side of the equal sign. Okay? And so what do we mean by both sides of the equation? We mean that we want to get variables on one side of the equal sign while getting numbers on the other side of the equal sign. And so that equal sign is very important. And the equal sign means equal. The equal sign cannot tell a lie. And with that in mind, we know that 31 minus 15 will give us 16. And let's think about this conceptually for a moment, because we're looking at the equal sign and we're asking ourselves, well, what number times 8 will give me 16? What number is hiding behind x that we know of will give us 16? And now we have a conceptual framework on how to work out algebra problems. And you probably already know the answer in your head, and that is the point. But your math teacher or your algebra teacher is going to want you to go through the process, because sometime in the future, you're going to be working with more difficult problems. And so what we're going to do, we're going to divide by the number that is next to the variable, which in this case is 8. And we're going to divide by 8 on both sides of this equation, or both sides of the equal sign. And we know that an 8 divided by 8 will give us 1 or 1x, or just simply x. And we also know that 16 divided by 8 will give us our magic number, the number that you guessed, which is 2. Okay, and your algebra teacher is going to want you to make sure that your answer is correct by checking to see if 2 fits into the equation. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to rewrite this equation, this two-step equation, but instead of an x, we're going to replace x with 2. And now we have 15 plus 8 times 2 is equal to 31, and we know that 15 plus 16 will equal 31. So 2 checks out, and that works for the first equation. And so let's take a look at the second equation and see what we can do here. And we have 25 minus p is equal to 10. And so to get p all by itself, we are going to subtract 25 from both sides. Again, whatever we do on one side of the equation, we do on the other side, or whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we do that same thing on the other side of the equal sign. And so now what remains is that we have a negative p is going to be equal to a negative 15. All right. Okay, now here's where your algebra teacher is going to ask you to make your variable positive. Okay, because because it's not proper, I would say, for lack of a better term, to deal with a negative variable. It's rather confusing, if you will. And so what your algebra teacher is going to tell you to do, he or she is going to tell you to divide by a -1 to turn that negative variable into a positive. And now we have p is equal to 15. Okay, and so let's check it. Let's see if it works. And here we go. So we're going to rewrite 15 into the equation. We're going to say 25 minus 15. And does that give us 10? And the answer is yes. 25 minus 15 will give us 10. And that equation works out. And let's go on to the next one. And you notice how we're introducing positive and negative integers into the two-step equation process because they're included as well, and we have to work with those. And so in this case, we have a negative 12a plus 4 will equal 100. And so let's get those variables on one side of the equation and get the numbers on the other side. And by doing that, we're going to have to subtract 4 from both sides. And so now we have a negative 12a is equal to 96. And so now what we're going to do, we are going to divide this time by a negative 12. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side. And a negative 12 divided by a negative 12 is 1, or in this case, 1a, or just a. Remember, a negative divided by a negative will give us a positive result. And so we have a is equal to a positive 96 divided by a negative 12, which will give us a negative 8. And so a is equal to negative 8, but let's check it just to make sure. And so we're going to plug in a negative 8 where a is to actually see if that's going to work. So we have a negative 12 times a negative 8 plus 4. And the question is, will that give us 100? Let's work it out to see. A negative times a negative is a positive. And so a negative 12 times a negative 8 will actually give me a positive 96. And a 96 plus 4 will give us 100. All right, you have been given quite a bit of information, and I understand that you may need time to process it. Please pause the video if you like to try out the problems on your own, or replay the video as many times you need to gain a deeper understanding of the meaning of the operations that go with two-step equations. But in the meantime, please comment, share, like, and I repeat, like, and subscribe to Jackson's Math Notebook for more content. Thank you and goodbye.